Today, we are diving deep into an economic idea that's way older than you might think, but somehow more relevant than ever. We're talking about the cooperative. Okay, let's just start with a simple question. What if the whole game wasn't just about being an employee or a customer? What if you were an owner too? I mean, really think about that. That little shift in thinking, well, that's the entire foundation of the cooperative movement. So here's the thing, you gotta get right off the bat. Cooperatives aren't just one single thing. They're actually a solution to two totally different economic problems. On one side, you've got the classic problem of labor exploitation, workers not getting a fair shake. And on the other side, you've got market failure, when crucial services are just way too expensive, or maybe they're not even available at all. So these two big problems, they gave birth to two really distinct kinds of cooperatives, and each one has a totally different mission. Let's break down what they are. First up, you have the production cooperative. You'll probably hear it called a worker co-op, and it's exactly what it sounds like. The workers are the owners. They're the ones voting on everything, from pay scales to what time the shifts start. And any profits, they're shared based on the work you put in, not how much cash you invested. The whole point isn't to make some faceless shareholder rich, it's to create good, stable jobs for themselves. And look, if you're thinking this is just some small-time niche idea, you have got to hear about the Mondragon Corporation in Spain. This thing is a massive global network of businesses all owned by their workers. We're talking everything from building car parts to running grocery stores. Mondragon is living proof that this model can absolutely go head-to-head with traditional companies on a huge scale. Now let's flip the coin over. This is the service cooperative. In this version, the owners aren't the employees, they're the customers. The whole idea here is for people to pool their resources, their collective buying power, to get access to things like electricity or banking or even housing at a much lower cost than they could get on their own. You've probably heard of REI, the outdoor gear store, right? Well, that's a perfect example. When you buy a membership there, you're not just getting a discount card, you're literally becoming a part owner of the company. And you know that divvy they send out every year? That's your slice of the profits. It's coming right back to you, the owner. So let's put these two side by side, because this really nails the difference. You could say a worker co-op is set up to fight against the exploitative boss. But a service co-op? It's designed to fight the predatory middleman. In one, your identity is as a producer. In the other, it's as a user. The logic is just so simple and powerful. We work for ourselves versus we buy for ourselves. Okay, so where did these two different models even come from? Well, to understand that, we've got to go back, way back to the smoke and steam of the Industrial Revolution. People have been cooperating forever, of course, but the modern co-op movement really catches fire during the Industrial Revolution. You see some early attempts, like some weavers back in 1761. But the real big bang moment? That's 1844, with a group called the Rochdale Pioneers. After them, the idea just explodes. It gets legal protection in Italy, a huge boost in the US during the New Deal, and eventually leads to giants like Mondragon. And those Rochdale pioneers, they came up with something that sounds simple, but was absolutely revolutionary at the time. One member, one vote. Think about that. It completely flipped the script. It meant that your power in the organization came from you being a person, not from how much money you had. Your voice mattered just as much as anyone else's. So why did these two types of co-ops have such different histories? Well, it all boils down to one word: capital. Money. It was incredibly hard for a group of workers to scrape together enough cash to buy a whole factory. But a service co-op, say for electricity in a rural area, they could scale up just by signing on more and more members, which is why so many of them became these massive mainstream institutions. Right, so these ideas don't just exist in a bubble. The laws of the land can be a huge green light, or they can be a total brick wall, stopping a movement dead in its tracks. Let's talk about the green lights. Back in 1882, Italy did something huge. They passed a law that officially recognized that one member, one vote principle. Then, jump to the 1930s in the US. The government didn't just allow rural electric co-ops, they actively funded them with federal loans, bringing power to millions of homes for the first time. That's a green light. But then you get the brick walls. The fascist government in Italy completely suppressed co-ops because they saw that kind of grassroots democracy as a direct threat to their power. And later during the Cold War, the whole idea of collective ownership made some governments pretty nervous, so they threw up all sorts of legal hurdles that made it tough for co-ops to grow. So, after decades of this push and pull, this legal mess, you get this big global effort to fix it. In 2002, the International Labor Organization issued something called Recommendation 193. And this was a really big deal. It was basically a call to action for every government in the world to create a level playing field, to make sure their laws weren't unfairly hurting co-ops. Okay, that's the history. But what does all of this have to do with us, right here, right now? How does an idea from the 1800s possibly apply to our world of apps, algorithms, and the gig economy? Well, this is where we get something called platform cooperativism. It's the co-op idea basically rebooted for the 21st century. Instead of a giant tech company taking a huge slice of the pie, the workers themselves, the drivers, the delivery people, you name it, they own the app. A fantastic example is the Drivers Cooperative in New York City. It's a ride-hailing app that's owned and run by the drivers. But of course, there's a catch, and it's a big one. It's sometimes called the scissor effect. See, our laws are pretty much set up to see workers in only two ways. You're either a traditional W-2 employee, or you're a 1099 independent contractor. These platform co-ops, they get caught right in the middle of those two blades because their members are both workers and owners. Our legal system just doesn't know what to do with them. And that really brings us to the big question, doesn't it? We've seen how this model was born in the factories of the Industrial Revolution. So now, today, in an economy that's all about digital platforms and often unstable gig work, could this 180-year-old idea actually be the future of what it means to own your own work?